This is Your Favorite Character Sucks with John.
Oh, we're rolling. Matt.
And Brandon.
A podcast where we look at characters in our favorite books and decide which is the best. Well, not just books, right? Movies, TV shows.
Any form of media, really, yeah.
Right. How does one determine media? How does one determine what the best character is? Well, with our extensive literary knowledge and a level of confidence possessed only by an American man, we can discover the answer to any question. Before we begin, my conscience would not let me go on without first saying that this podcast has assumed you are familiar with the series being discussed. If you haven't read, listened to, watched, or gone on an acid trip that has revealed to you the plot of the series under discussion, then you should stop listening now until you've read or watched whatever we're talking about. You have been warned.
On today's episode, who watches The Watchmen? Well, we did, and we also read it to inform this discussion.
Brandon, you were not here last time, but we started a tradition.
Wait, are we starting?
I wasn't here either.
I don't think so.
I like how you're always... There's multiple podcasts where he's like...
Wait, is it a tradition if you've only done it once?
It is.
Yeah, no, I think tradition should
I think
be
you
more...
got to do it a couple of times
Yeah.
before it becomes a tradition.
Yeah.
No, what I'm saying is let the tradition become...
Develop naturally.
Let it, give it space
Just
to
keep
grow
doing it,
and
and
to
we'll
learn.
figure out if it's
Exactly.
So the tradition is
It's not a
to
tradition.
introduce our
This
guest
is a thing.
before we have our discussion.
Oh, yeah,
to
that's
actually
probably
say...
something we should have done from day
Yeah.
one. But
Yeah. So we're here with... how do you want to go? You introduce yourself. Who are you?
Matt Campbell?
Don't say your last name. No, I'm kidding.
But we have
Well,
two Matts, so we have to distinguish.
That is true. That
Well,
is
he's
true.
sexy, Matt.
And this is Sexier Matt.
Sexy Matt.
So, yeah.
So we
That's
will
how you
address you.
refer to
I'll
it.
say, all right, Sexy Matt and Sexier Matt.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you get to call your brother sexy, Matt. That makes me...
Anyway, we're here with Matt, our guest today, who...
Matt's on every episode.
I thought you were a regular.
I'm the only true regular.
we're here
That's
with
not
Matt
fair.
Campbell,
What's
You-
weird is I'm the only host.
You're the first one to miss an episode.
Wait, which one did I miss?
Game of Thrones.
Ah, true.
You were sick or
A
something.
very important one.
I was there in spirit.
Yeah. We're here with Matt Campbell, who has read and watched and just rewatched The Watchmen.
I rewatched it last night and then half of it this morning.
Like the full thing last night and then half
No,
again?
no. Half of it last night.
Oh,
And I
okay.
got too tired.
Oh,
And
gotcha.
I took a whole bunch of notes too. And then
Damn.
while I was walking out of my door, I put them on my counter and I left them at my house.
That is also how I watched the film, though. I get to the part where Nite Owl and Silk Spectre 2 start fucking in the
Yeah.
fucking Archie.
And then you take notes?
Oh no, then I nut and I go to sleep because I'm too tired. And then I wake up the next morning, I'm like, all right, we can continue from here on.
Okay.
Because I mean, that scene is so long and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's
Can we talk about that's the first thing I want to talk
Long
about.
and uncomfortable is a theme already so far in this episode.
Yeah.
We've all watched The Watchmen. Some of us have read The Watchmen, and
Some of us have watched and read The Watchmen.
so who wants to do their opening statement? It isn't.
You start off, because I don't even know who you're picking, so you start it off.
Okay.
That's true.
You don't know who
He
you're
still
not
doesn't
okay.
know who
You don't know who you're
he's
picking.
He still doesn't have
This guy's a piece of shit. You see?
Do you want to order first? You want me to order first? All right, give me a second. Okay, so what are the characters' names again?
And this is one of those films where we don't know any of the actors. We're only going to have to refer to them by the characters' names.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan as the comedian is the character that I am picking.
He is...
That's the only character you know, though.
And the dude who plays Rorschach
Oh, he's in so many good things.
plays
He's in Preacher.
Freddy Krueger. He's in Preacher.
I have not seen Preacher, but I was not aware that
He plays
was
like a new
also
Freddy Krueger?
Yeah, in the
Okay.
remake.
Oh, cool. He has a messed up face. He's also in The Tick.
It's
Yeah,
a little
he's
rude
the-
to say his
he's
face
the
is
main
messed
villain in
up.
The
I
They
mean,
picked him for Rorschach, and Rorschach is literally ugly in the comic book. Like,
you're saying he's got like negative charisma score?
yeah, I
3.5?
think so. So I'm picking the comedian. I went between.
Edward Blake.
I was back and forth between the comedian and Ozymandias, who are both heroes in the
So are you
Watchmen
talking
world.
about, you're picking the comedian like his hero identity. You're not talking about Edward Blake.
Both. The character,
They're separate.
Edward Blake. All right.
He's picking Rorschach, which is a completely
No, we
different
can't
person.
do that. We're not
no,
doing that.
specifically, one of the themes
We're
of
not doing
Rorschach is that
Mm-mm.
the separation between who he
Sure.
was.
He's
and
like a
becoming
guy
one.
that's on the street, protesting.
No, but
True.
he refuses
I'm not doing
to go back to his human.
Well, that's not
that
who he
mask
is.
is his face.
Yeah.
No, but
Okay.
to him,
That's what
that
he
is
says.
who he is. He doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't.
Well, no,
want
he
to take it off.
recognizes who he was, though. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
He understands that it was 2 different.
Edward Blake
But he never wants
slash.
to be that guy again.
I hope that's his actual name. It is Edward
And
Blake.
also, Edward Blake is still equally a piece of shit in both.
Yeah.
I would argue that he is more of a piece of shit than the comedian.
So, Edward Blake, the comedian, is who I'm picking. I was thinking about honorable mentions, Ozymandias.
Yeah.
Both of them are
I would have
heroes.
done Ozzy if mine had been taken.
They're both heroes. However, they are the more effed up ones. They're arguably villains at a certain point. Where would you draw the line? That's part of what Watchmen is, right?
No, I think they're just villains.
Yeah.
I think so, but technically they would be called like heroes. I mean, that's
how they got
On what
started.
regard?
Ozymandias is like
They're both
has a brand that
Part
he is
of like the hero
they're
team.
part of the Watchmen. Yeah, I like to think that the comedian Edward Blake. I'm not going to say both every time, but the comedian. He first of all, he's portrayed really well by Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Jeffrey Dean Morgan always does a pretty good job with the characters he plays. But he's also one of the more misunderstood characters, although he is, I think you can't walk away from it thinking he's a good guy. There's no way you could. However, as the story unravels, you find out that the relationships that he had with other people are not what they seem in the beginning. And I think that that's kind of cool. I also think it's cool that he is sort of, he opens, the book opens with his death being like what happened. It's the mystery is him.
That as the
being
start
killed.
of like the story is really sick.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
Immediately.
And I mean, the symbol of Watchmen, the smiley face with the blood on it, that's his.
Mm-hmm.
The film, doesn't it open with
It opens.
Nat King Cole song?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Unforgettable.
That's playing
So good.
as they're fighting.
Literally.
Oh,
In his-
great
in his
scene.
apartment.
Great
Yeah,
scene
it's
for
amazing.
sure.
The music actually does enhance
The music
it.
does,
definitely.
I love
for the
it.
most part. Some of the songs I feel like are distracting.
Well,
I was,
in that particular scene, I love that.
yeah,
It's
I
so
agree.
good.
I agree.
And that song is also pulled from the comics. That's one of the songs that's just randomly in
Yeah.
the comics for some reason.
So yeah, the comedian. He also is the first one to really uncover the plot that eventually Rorschach gets a hold of, and that seed is the catalyst for like the whole book, the whole story, the whole series or show. So I think the comedian is a really strong character. That's what I'm going with. All right, who's going
You
next?
want to go, Matt, or you want me to?
Yeah. I'm not gonna get in a whole story because
No.
we're about to talk about the
I
characters.
hate it when he does that. Yeah.
I picked Rorschach because I just think he's the coolest character, and he drives the plot. I think the most.
I mean, yeah,
There's a lot of points at which he narrates the story.
it opens up with him his journal, right? Like
Coolest lines in the movie, I think.
he does have some of the most badass lines.
He has good lines, yeah.
Yeah. I think
And,
coolest character, maybe. Like, there's an argument for
No.
sure that he's the coolest character.
They were way cooler.
Yeah, coolest costume too, in my opinion.
Man.
Iconic. It's stayed in the show. It's like one of the biggest symbols for the show too.
Well, it's because like when
Unfortunately,
you think about the
it's
character,
Oh my
white
God.
supremacist, but-
Yikes,
no, when you
yeah.
think about the character, like he, in a lot of ways, and even he says it in the book, he sympathizes with like Nazis and a lot of like right wing like ideology and stuff
Yeah.
like that. That's just who
I
he
don't
is.
remember.
You're
that.
saying Rorschach is an incel?
By choice, maybe.
Oh, so he's a Volso.
Also, absolutely.
False.
Cut that. We don't want to talk anything about. I don't want to give any more exposure to these people. It's just so uncomfortable talking about it. Just, Rorschach, though.
So yeah,
Rorschach.
Rorschach.
Cool character,
Yep.
Very cool character.
Yes.
He's gonna want to go
I assume
last.
Matt's going last,
Yeah.
So I'm doing Dr. Manhattan. I'd say not just within Watchmen, but it's just one of my favorite comic book characters in general. I think he's really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were just mentioning the Superman archetype, but this is like a much more interesting take on the all-powerful hero, I think.
Yeah.
One that doesn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, instead
Or
of
slowly starting to not care
Yeah.
more and more.
yeah, because by becoming all-powerful, he's mostly lost his humanity.
Yeah.
Sure.
But some of his most interesting moments are when the humanity still shines through, I think. So I think he's just a much more complex and interesting character than someone like Superman.
Yeah.
Who
Well,
is just
Superman-
very one-track mind.
Superman is a god shoved into a superhero comic book.
Well, also
Dr.
Superman's a-
Manhattan-
Superman, well, in defense of Superman, which I would never do, but he is a product of his time.
That's true
He
too.
came out literally so long ago,
Yeah,
man. And he was the first
But
superhero. So it's
Dr.
hard-
Manhattan is a god that exists within a comic book and does not adhere to
And
like,
also-
the rules of a superhero. You know what I
Dr.
mean?
Manhattan also just isn't as strong as Superman.
You think? Yeah.
I mean,
Which
there recently was a...
also makes Superman lame as fuck, but
Why?
Couldn't Dr. Manhattan just like create kryptonite? We can't get into this.
But can't Superman just destroy kryptonite? I mean, Superman is Superman. Well, all he just needs is the problem with Dr. Manhattan is he never had like a childhood growing up in Kansas.
If Superman is your favorite character,
Yeah, that's the problem.
then your favorite character sucks, dude.
I cannot wait for the
Justice
DC,
League?
the Justice League.
We're not doing Superman purely,
So I can
so
pick
it's gonna be
Superman,
it's gonna be Justice League.
Well, I will pick Superman.
Yeah.
Because Superman is
All
not
right.
an interesting character.
You heard it here first, guys.
Don't hold me to that.
Watch that Justice League
Or do hold me to that.
or listen to it.
So, Dr. Man.
Okay.
And I would say I think his sort of like creation story is interesting. The fact that it's like scientific experiment.
Well, the only creation story that's true is Adam and Eve and the Garden of Eden. But you're saying he has a creation story too? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, he's gonna then go off to create his own.
He is actually, yeah.
Yeah.
He says he's going to go start his own universe, which he canonically does not do, right? In the Watchmen series.
No, but he does in
He
the.
does.
Oh, okay. Can you just make it so that Superman was never born?
You'd imagine. No. That's one of the things about Dr. Man. He cannot
he doesn't.
affect events.
Yeah, because
He only sees them simultaneously.
because they're present to him.
Yeah.
The future is present to
It's
him.
not present to him. He exists
He
simultaneously.
says everything's
saying.
It's
predetermined.
different, yeah.
But he says it's all happening to me at once. So
Exactly.
it's happened. Like
It's-
the future has happened.
So if he's doing something, it's because he's seen that's what he
Himself do
does.
it, yeah.
He can't change. He can't like make changes.
Is that it? Is it just that's what time is and he can't do it? He can't change
That's
it?
what
Or
he says.
is he
Because
not changing it by
perceives-
choice?
he perceives time.
What's the quote? He says like everyone is just a puppet. He just
Sees the
happens
strings.
to be able to see the strings.
Okay, yeah.
But he still doesn't have any
doesn't
more
have any
control,
control, really.
over the universe.
I gotcha.
Dr. Man, cool character.
Who's the
Not
best?
the coolest character.
Mm.
So I know this is going to sound fucked.
Well, coolest doesn't mean best, but go
Yeah,
ahead.
no,
you can
the
try.
best character,
I'm not ready.
Dan Dreiberg, the second Nite Owl.
I like him.
I actually...
You were saying it like it's going to be a curveball. I enjoy him.
I think he's insanely lame.
He is
he's so
Okay.
He's literally a dweeb
Okay.
to the like 9th degree.
Yeah, he's literally impotent.
But
He's in his
I
40s.
think he is so necessary for the story.
Yeah.
And he's like basically the only thing that like anchors.
He's a superhero going through a midlife crisis.
It's not even the midlife crisis. I think he's the only like human.
Well, yeah, he's the only
He's the
normal.
Spectre.
He's the only
Silk
normal guy.
Spectre is a human, but she was born into like that family of superheroes.
She's like she's like a celebrity
true.
child,
She's like a pageant.
Yeah, she was
had,
forced
like, a
into
pageant on, basically.
that role.
Yeah.
which is pretty cool.
The second Nite Owl is the only thing that anchors
Yeah.
them to humanity, really.
Mm.
And honestly, a cool character for many reasons. A giant dweeb. I hate him so much, but I think he is actually the best character and one of the main characters of the Watchmen series.
Oh, for sure.
So he gets a ton of screen.
He's definitely main, yeah. Well, and he's also portrayed really well. What's the actor's name that plays him?
We don't know.
That guy's in a lot of good. No, he's good in everything
He's
in.
in
Oh.
that new.
Yeah, that's why
He's
I'm.
in the new
Midway.
Aquaman.
He's in that Midway.
Oh yeah, he's Aquaman's brother, right?
Is that the same dude?
Yes,
Villain,
yes, yes,
yeah.
yes.
Oh, he was also in that one movie.
He's in
with
Hard Candy with
Hard Candy with Ellen
Oh
Page.
man,
He's in a
So
lot of
scary.
Yes.
movies.
Ooh, I watched that with your brother and Tyler.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does.
Ellen Page, right?
I was so surprised because when I was rereading the book,
When you Google Hard Candy, you get images of hard candy, not the movie or
That
the
does
show,
make
but
sense.
like
I
candy.
agree.
I was rereading the book
Mhm,
and watching
mhm.
the film. He did a really good job of just being
Patrick Wilson. Patrick
Patrick
Wilson.
being
Wilson. He
lame.
does a good,
He does a good job.
It does a good job of being lame.
He makes the character better.
And I think the character was already written pretty well. Like he's sort of written to be that dweeb because
Yeah.
he's just a regular dude.
Yeah.
But we'll get into all that later. Best character for sure.
Okay.
Most human, most relatable.
We'll be right back after this exciting news about a new Alan Moore project. In the 1980s, Alan Moore changed the comic book world forever with Watchmen. He gave us a more human and realistic version of superheroes that fans still hunger for today. That's why Alan Moore is back with a new hero. Not the hero that we need, and not the hero that we want, but the kind of hero that would exist in the year 2020. His name? Reedman. Reedman follows Timothy Reedman, a middle-aged balding man who works for a life insurance company. We watch as Timothy Reedman goes to work, assessing risk, processing claims, and adjusting rates for his customers. We then see him take the subway from work to his therapist's office, where he works through a crippling anxiety that many of us can relate to. You see, Timothy Reedman has powers. He's arguably one of the most powerful men in the universe, but panic attacks and doubt keep him from doing anything.
We watch as page after detailed page of therapy reveals why Timothy Reedman is so crippled by fear and anxiety. We see him work through this anxiety and fear. And then, in the end, we see him at home watching the news, still grappling with the same fear and anxiety. Read the book that's being described by the Washington Post as boring. One New York Times critic proclaimed, "Oh, so we just watch him go to therapy and there's no villains or crime being fought or anything? I guess there truly is nothing left to explore in comic books." Grab Alan Moore's Reedman in 2020.
Alan Moore, I think we do need to talk about him because people who know Watchmen and maybe they like Watchmen. I mean, I guess you would know who Alan Moore is if you like Watchmen because it's such a well-written piece of work. But also I forget how many things he's done that are also just freaking amazing.
Yeah, I was gonna say this isn't like his only work.
Yeah,
either.
V for Vendetta, Alan Moore.
Yeah, we were talking about this.
Didn't he do League of Extraordinary Gentlemen? I think I was looking. I found that.
Yeah.
That's also a very. I mean, the movie
Swamp
wasn't
Thing.
great, but it was fine. Swamp Thing was like an iconic graphic novel.
I think
he did the.
He did the Killing Joke.
He did the Killing Joke,
I think that's what he's
which
most known
inspired arguably one of the best superhero movies of all time, which is Batman: The Dark Knight with Heath Ledger as the Joker.
Okay.
That is inspired by Alan Moore's work. I think
flick.
he won an Oscar. Heath Ledger won an Oscar for that. And
Posthumously.
Aaron Eckhart is fucking Two-Face, man. It's such a good movie. Anyway, Alan Moore is not only an amazing writer, but also prolific. And yeah, what he's doing with Watchmen is freaking awesome because he's saying like, well, let's pretend that these superheroes are more real and like, what would they be like? And I think that's really cool.
It's like the first take on like the gritty superhero.
You're saying Watchmen was the first
not the first gritty,
remake?
but it is the
first gritty reboot of.
It's a really good one though. I think it's stands out. I mean, it was 80s.
No, I'm not even talking about the movie.
80s was the age of
Yeah,
gritty.
no, I'm just talking about superheroes.
Well,
Yeah.
80s was the age of the grittiness. I think it was one of the first, if not the. I mean, it was. I don't know if it was
I can't
the
think of any
first.
other examles.
Yeah, I mean, people say that like
I'm sure
people say that it was a
actual comic book
turning
nerds
point. It was a turning point whenever Green Goblin kills not Mary Jane, but Gwen Stacy. When Green Goblin kills Gwen Stacy, people are saying like that was like a turning point. Like that was when the comic book agencies like finally comic book companies like stood up to the what are they called? Basically like the government that was saying they couldn't publish stuff like that because it was for kids, and they were like, no, we can. Adults might read this too. Like we can make adult comics if we want. And so yeah, I think that was people.
But not adult comics.
People largely
We're talking about comics that are
For-
suitable for adult reading.
Yes.
When you say an adult
Not
comic,
pornographic.
Yeah, not a Tijuana Bible, which is mentioned in
Correct.
Watchmen. Yeah. Which, by the way, when I grew up in Pasadena, I would go to
it's just more personal information.
I would
You
go
don't do this kind of stuff.
I would go to markets with my friends who lived on the street with me, actually next door to me.
They lived on the street.
They live on the street.
With
We all lived on the street.
You also lived on
We
the
were
street.
homeless.
This is news to me.
So anyway, their mom would take us to like the market, and there were always Tijuana Bibles like all over the place, and pretty much every time we would go, it was like, "Hey, John, let's go," and it was to steal a like Tijuana Bible and
Can
take
you
home.
relate to this sexy man?
He was
No,
younger.
I can't sexier.
Sexier. Not even mad. Just
Yeah,
sexier.
there's no point
I'm
in
just gonna
stating
call him
the
sexy. Yeah, we
Yeah, just
know.
do that.
Yeah.
Sexy and sexier. But the listeners might get confused and think you're talking to me or
Nobody
or
would
Reddit.
ever confuse
Nobody
that.
can confuse it. Maybe Brandon. Maybe.
So anyway, so yeah, Alan Moore. There it is. That's all I want to say. Is he
Good writer.
really cool? Yeah. So I was talking to Matt before about Rorschach,
Dan Dreiberg.
and so we were saying
So wait, are we
Dr.
talking
Manhattan.
about Rorschach?
Yeah, we will. Dr. Manhattan was
So who are we
inspired
talking
by
about now?
Superman. We can talk about whatever, dude. This is round robin.
It's open now.
Dr. Manhattan was inspired by the Superman type of idea, right? Like a super powerful guy, but what would he really be like is what Alan Moore's doing.
Like Superman.
Rorschach, I said Batman is
That's
who
what I
he's.
said,
no.
too.
But what do you think? Because Matt was also
I
saying
said no too.
The question.
the question.
I mean, yeah, obviously there's...
They both wear masks.
No, the appearance is basically the same.
100%. The question is
But-
exactly the same.
was the question a thing back then? Really?
He's the one with the blank.
But was he a thing back then? I know that.
Don't fact check
But
us.
yeah,
I'm
no.
pretty sure.
Yeah.
He's
tweet
like...
us. Tweet us at
Do not
YFCS
tweet us
Pod.
because I'm 100% incorrect.
YFCS Pod, and let us know if the
I think
question
Rorschach
predates
is
Rorschach.
like Batman with the mental illness that Batman should have.
Right,
pretty
right.
much. you
This
know
is
what I mean? Like
And we need to give a shout out. You sent that video, Alt Shift, right?
Mhm.
Is that what it's called?
Alt Shift X.
Alt Shift X on YouTube has
Yeah.
a really freaking awesome analysis of the comic and the characters. But so anyway, continue.
Yeah, and that's what he says in the video. He's like, he's like Batman.
Yeah.
But
what kind of person would be Batman?
Yeah.
Someone who's nuts.
you have to be mentally ill to.
That's what I was saying. But,
to give up your life.
But why don't you think so? That you're saying just the Playboy stuff, like the Batman, the personality is just not enough to make it where you're like,
looked it
no.
up.
Yeah.
So the question
The question is
first appeared in Charlton Comics, which is what Alan Moore wanted to take those characters directly. So the appearance is probably directly just from
okay. So at YFCS Pod, tweet us if you know if the question predates.
So basically, don't tweet us anymore, bitch, because I knew, even though I didn't know. I'm on my fucking comic book shit.
We want people to engage with our social media, man.
Not if I'm just correct. Okay, I'm just right.
Subscribe to the podcast, please.
And it feels so good to be vindicated so quickly by myself.
Rate, review, and like it, please. We need your support for no reason.
Rorschach, appearance based on the question.
Yeah.
A lot of modus operandi based off of Batman.
Yeah.
But if you were actually mentally ill.
Yeah. Which arguably he is. When Alan Moore does the Killing Joke,
he has some.
When Alan Moore does the Killing Joke, when Alan Moore does the Killing Joke, he compares Batman and the Joker, saying that they both have a mental illness.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Well, it's like when you remove the one thing that Batman won't do, you get Rorschach.
Which is kill?
Kill.
Rorschach will kill?
Yeah.
Rorschach becomes Rorschach after making his first
messed
kill.
up.
Yeah, a few people in that movie.
Because Batman's willing to like torture and do all this other like morally questionable stuff. He just won't kill.
Yeah. So Rorschach, I think, is a good character because I think, we hear the story from his voice quite a bit.
Yeah.
But then he's also complex because of his backstory, like why he is a superhero.
Yeah. So his mom was a prostitute.
Yes.
And an abusive one too.
Like she was abusive to him.
Yes. Yeah. In the movie, it shows he like walked in, I think, on
whichever we said before, hurt people. But yeah.
Her having sex with this guy, and then she just comes up yelling at him, I should have had the abortion, and smacks him in the face.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy past.
But is that even crazier than like
Your parents get
that worse than
I'd say yes. I'd rather have no parents than one that beats the shit out of me and
he's a prostitute? I mean, okay, first of all, that's disparaging of people in the sex industry. There's nothing wrong with being a prostitute.
I didn't say there was.
Something wrong with the child abuse.
Something wrong with
So let's focus on the child abuse because I don't feel like I don't want to marginalize people in the sex industry because I think that's fucked up. But yes, obviously there's something wrong with the child abuse. Nobody's arguing that.
Then he's unsettled by a woman being murdered in New York and like nobody helping her.
Yes.
Right, and that was like based on real events.
Yeah,
that's the thing that's cool about Watchmen, and also a lot of Alan Moore stuff is that there's so much like touchstones with reality that it feels. I think he's trying to like
C.S. Lewis.
He's trying to get us into it, where it's like it feels like it could be real.
When I say C.S. Lewis, it's like,
I mean,
touches on real life.
The Vietnam War is like a big part of Watchmen because it
Vietnam
shows
War and the Cold War are both extremely relevant.
Oh, the Cold War for sure. That's the whole point of Watchmen is that
I would say that both of them.
Yeah. Is that Russia or Soviet Union at the time and the United States are close to the brink of like nuclear
Soviet
holocaust
at the time when you're referring to the Watchmen universe, or is it just the Soviet Union?
Who knows if it'll ever break up? Has it broken up on the show? Do we know?
I don't think there's been ever talk about that specifically.
So Rorschach, and then what happens with that? The kid, there's a kidnap.
That's when
girl kidnaps.
That's when he
kills
Kovac and becomes.
Yeah.
So he's a hero.
That's the first time he kills.
He's trying to be like
this guy.
a good detective.
He's trying to have that role.
Before that, that's when he was like working with Nite Owl, the second one.
And then he discovers like
cloths in the fireplace from the girl, and then the dogs in the backyard chewing her leg.
Yeah, just
apart.
like the depravity.
And as soon as he saw that, I think that's when he
loses
snaps.
it.
Yeah. He kills the dogs, throws them through the window
that scene
at
is
the
insane.
guy.
Oh my god!
And then comes in and just
and then just meat cleavers that
meat
dude.
cleaver, and then
in the novel he doesn't even
burns the house.
Right, but I was seeing that too when I was looking up.
He handcuffs him to the furnace
and
hands him a hacksaw,
burns the house down.
Hands him a hacksaw and says,
"If
you want to get out, you have to saw your arm."
Which I think I like that better.
Yeah,
because to me, but to me that's more of a transition because I don't kill people and then I'm going to murder you with a butcher's knife. That's a little different than I'm going to leave it up to whether you can escape or not. That's still kind of the character sort of negotiating with himself.
In between,
It's like
the movie has to be.
You can see the character maybe going home and being like, I didn't kill him. I gave him the hacksaw. He couldn't get out. It's not on me.
He says specifically, you don't have time to saw through the handcuff. And then he says, so that implies that you have to go through the arm.
Oh, man. Yeah. God dang.
So he had an out.
Yeah.
But that's
Obviously,
more
you know,
fucked up, I think.
No,
Well, he tried to tell him. He tried to help you. Like, you're not gonna have time. You need to do that. He was giving him tips.
Tips and tricks on how to not
How to escape from a fire.
Yeah, well, he also waited out
'Cause, yeah,
for an hour at the front to make sure nobody came out of the building.
I mean,
in the movie, he just straight up says, like, he needed to be put down like a rabid dog.
Yeah.
Which is true. That's
So
more
I think also
Rorschach
makes
than it
sense.
was of.
So,
But that's
so
what
he's
he
got a
does.
rich,
That's
rich backstory, I think. And
He says humans get incarcerated, dogs get put down.
Yeah.
That's what the quote
so
is.
he's changed his mind. People who do these kind of things are not human anymore. Yeah, I'm not going to
They're
see them as
dogs.
human. I'm going to dehumanize them. Oh wow, man, such a good
Well,
fucking
yeah.
character.
It's fucking
God
amazing.
dang,
He's
Alan Moore is so
amazing.
good at writing.
He has some great
spooky.
quotes.
So the
I
other
like
thing
it.
that Alan Moore did was he, you know, and again, I was reminded of this. I knew this, but I was reminded of this when we watched that review video by Alt Shift X, is that each character has a different worldview and approach to fighting crime and being a hero and kind of thing. And then that's really neat because, like, as we're reading this book, we all have different perspectives about what's right and what's wrong.
No, we don't.
We all are meant to have the same perspective.
I would say that most of us in this room share a pretty common perspective on right.
I'm saying that there are some people who might say, like Erica, for instance, sides with Thanos in the MCU. I feel like there are some people who would be like, Ozymandias saved the world from a nuclear holocaust. I mean, that's
just when I first
worth
watched
it.
the movie, I thought that.
And also in the movie, let's talk about the different endings because I think there are good and bad in both versions.
Well, hold on. I want to talk about Rorschach more.
Yeah. Okay.
What you said, they all have like different views. I think Rorschach is the only one besides Adrian Veidt who
constantly pushing for justice.
Not even just justice, but just refuses to compromise. That's his thing.
He doesn't care if he dies or
so Rorschach
whatever
won't compromise.
Yeah.
Adrian Veidt won't compromise, but it just
Dr. Manhattan.
But I would say that
is sort of a hero by like necessity. Like, I have these powers. People want me to do something with them, so I just do them. But I don't care too much, right?
Well, at the beginning, I'd like to think he cared. Certainly,
He hadn't lost all his
but you see slowly, like he goes from being a man to just whatever he becomes to become Dr. Man,
a being beyond humanity.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like at the beginning, certainly wanted to be maybe not a hero, but like helpful.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think he wanted to be helpful. I think that's how he sees it. I'm helping you guys.
So this is going to what you're about to say.
Yeah.
But I think the ending in the movie,
it sucks.
What is the one in the movie versus?
Okay, so the one in the book, the flaw, they're positive and negatives. Okay, positive, I think it's more interesting. I think it's more like Lex Luthor villainy, which is what Alan Moore was going for. It's less realistic. Okay,
what are you talking about?
He has these people, scientists, geneticists, and artists and stuff like that, creating a creature that looks realistically like an alien to make it an alien invasion. I think that's great. But some people shit on it. They're like, "Oh, it's silly." But it's a comic. Alan Moore's trying to say this is realistic, but it's still a comic book. You know,
it's still a superhero comic.
It's still a superhero comic. And so anyway, and the flaw I think is he teleports it to New York and blows up New York, and that gets everybody
half of New York,
and that gets everybody on board. In the movie, they have multiple cities getting blown up all around the world. I think that's smarter. However, they try to pin it on Dr. Manhattan. Yeah. They make it an image. Ozymandias makes it an image of Dr. Manhattan appearing in all these cities and blowing it up, which I think is bad for two reasons. One, it forces Dr. Manhattan to leave because it makes him like either he leaves or he stays and he becomes the enemy of the world.
Well, either way, he becomes the enemy.
Either way, but then if he stays, he has to do something. He has to fight or something, so he leaves. So that kind of forces his exit, where I like in the book how he gets to choose.
Well, I was going to say the opposite, actually.
Okay, what were you going to say?
Because
you think his exit needed to be forced?
Well, this shows me that he still has some humanity because he's like, I'm willing to take this burden upon me for the good of humanity. Yeah. Whereas in the comic book, it's just like, oh, I don't care about you guys at all. This sucks. I'm just leaving.
All right. Well, here's my
I feel like he has more of a connection still to Earth.
Well, he wants to go back.
That's debatable for sure. I think I see your point. But here's the other major flaw. Dr. Manhattan works for the United States. So then Dr. Manhattan blows up every city around the world. Who's the world going to blame? I feel like that would just make Russia or Soviet Union even more pissed off.
But they can't do anything because it's Dr. Man.
But he's gone. Yeah, so nuke the United States. Why would you help the United States after their hero just blew up all the world?
But even they lost several cities. So I think
the United States also lost
the idea is just that he went rogue.
Okay, but the U.S.'s hero goes crazy and does this. Okay. We were going to blow up the United States before. Why are we... now their weapon went haywire. Good. Should have happened. You were playing with fire. You got burned. Good.
Well, another big thing about
I feel like that would unite humanity. I feel like an outside force is what would be needed to unite humanity.
I mean, Dr. Man is an outside force. He's no longer human at that point.
Right. But he's an inside voice because he works for the
But
US.
still, one obscure alien that you've never seen in your life showing up and destroying one city.
No, but I think
there's
if he
a
destroyed
lot
more than
more
one city.
that seems like more of an obscure threat, whereas this being that you know is a superhuman weapon is now chilling on Mars and just watching the planet. Like, that's a very active threat that you know exists.
Sure.
That's a good point.
All right, let's get back to your favorite ending sucks. Where we just debate shows that have different endings than the books, and we, tweet us, let us know which ending do you like the best, which one makes more sense to you.
But
They both
I
don't
also-
make any sense.
Okay, really?
Yeah.
So you hate them both?
No, I think they're both bad.
well, they're both. I think they're both very limited solutions, and that's why I think.
You know what the best solution
I think
is?
even though Ozymandias was trying to be utilitarian, I think he was still pretty short-sighted.
Yeah, it's utilitarian. He's saying I'll kill a few to save many.
Yeah, but it's such a it prevents that war.
It's also
but
did
then-
the ends justify the means? Yeah.
What happens
And-
after?
Yeah, like that's not gonna that thread's not gonna go on throughout
How are you
human
gonna
history.
help
People are gonna
people
move
live?
on and
Yeah.
start fighting about stuff all over again,
That's
which
true.
is what's happening in the show.
Correct.
Right. Well, that's just one take on what could be happening. I mean, I guess
Like
canonical
they're not
now,
gonna. The entire world's not gonna
It is what is
live
happening.
in
It's one take,
happy.
it is the take.
Like
That's
they're
the
not gonna be united in peace for the rest of human history because of this one event.
Yeah, you'd have to keep having aliens invade.
Yeah, exactly.
Every
Yeah. So
couple
every
of
10
decades.
Also
years,
in the
just
show,
come back
and
rains
raid again,
little
yeah.
squids, like little baby squids or whatever.
To remind
That's true. Yeah.
Well, there you go then.
Randomly, it just rains baby squids.
Well, there you go. To remind them, hey, this threat's out there. That's all you got to do.
But it doesn't stop them.
No, it doesn't
Nobody's
stop
scared of those squids. They just get in their cars.
In fact,
They're
it's not
gonna
even
show
war.
weapons
There's
on-
just they've regressed back to just freaking like fighting over a race.
Let's talk about my
Yeah.
honorable mention then Ozymandias, because that's his whole plot. That's his whole thing. The ends justify the means. Utilitarian. That's what I'm going to do. I'm a hero by doing this thing
He's
that
also like Batman.
would Batman sacrifice a few to save many? Is
Well,
that?
he's just only the rich asshole.
Oh, he's also super intelligent.
Really
He's super
smart.
But that's why I said
He's literally the
like,
smartest
he's the
man alive.
That's why I said Lex
Yeah.
Luthor though, like rich genius.
Yeah.
But
So
he's also out there and
yeah.
does it himself. You know what I'm saying? He's got all the
Yeah.
athleticism and the powers of Batman.
I really think he's cool too because in the Alan Moore way of making the character realistic, he's fucking monetized his image. Like he's like that's what would happen in the capitalist world we live in.
Well, he took
if someone
the
became a
original
superhero.
Silk Spectre did, and then just amped it up.
That's true.
Because he used this, yeah.
Well, and Silk Spectre is like we said, the child actor, the child of celebrities,
Well, I
that
meant
kind
the
of thing.
original Silk Spectre.
Yeah,
Because they're the first ones to take the superhero image and then monetize that in some way. That's
Gotcha.
what created the Minutemen or whatever.
Who's the worst character? I think Silk Spectre is.
The actual Silk Spectre is the
Silk
worst.
Spectre's pretty
And it's not her
boring.
fault.
I really do. I like her subplot that's going on where it
Silk
turned.
Spectre 2.
Silk Spectre 2. I like her subplot that's going on. I think it is interesting that she's like the pageant child, and that's kind of cool because that's an interesting like what would happen if a superhero had a child? Would they
It's
make their
also
kid a superhero? I think that's cool
it's
too.
very like 80s in the fact that she's just like a vehicle for the.
She is. Alan
for the
Moore
men.
doesn't do
Yeah.
much for
Well,
the
yeah.
female characters, really.
I mean,
She wasn't
you
given.
can't blame him because
They're prostitutes. They're rape victims.
Yeah.
They're the children of
Yeah.
rape victims. I
She
mean,
wasn't given as much like.
So
character
let's
development.
talk about Alan Moore.
Like she's
He's a
basically
good writer, but not
she's
great for
basically
women.
just an agent for like Dr. Man to connect with humanity.
An agent?
And,
Yeah.
What?
yeah, an Asian.
An agent.
Piece of
An
shit.
agent?
An agent for what? For Dr. Manhattan too.
Well, Dr. Manhattan and Nite Owl too.
Oh wow!
So, right?
Yeah.
Because-
She's the object of their affection. Yeah.
And that's how he finds like
Dang.
who he is again
Wow.
and becoming like Nite Owl.
Yeah. She also is excited by becoming a real hero, and fighting crime for
I don't think so.
They have sex almost immediately after that like prison
Oh, you
break
mean
scene.
like
They
It's
both-
the only way he
Excitement.
could have sex is
Yeah.
to fight crime
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
That's his Viagra.
Yeah.
That's reasonable though.
Night Out. So literally, like
Get all that test in your
he
pocket?
knows he wants to get
Like,
intimate in the night, so he's got to go and like beat up some
in
criminals
the
before.
Nite Owl
Yeah, Night Owl. Yeah,
costume.
he's got to go beat up some criminals beforehand.
Yeah, he's pretty lame.
Yeah, I feel bad for Silk Spectre.
Silk Spectre, and the other problem is
Okay.
we talked about great actors portraying the characters. Patrick Wilson, Night Owl, Jeffrey Dean Morgan for comedian. The actress that portrays Silk Spectre is a bad actress.
I don't even remember.
I have rewatched the
I don't
movie.
think she's bad. She's forgettable.
She was in a few things back then in that time, and I remember each thing that I saw her in. Like she was in a comedy with Ben Stiller, and I remember
that's the one I
hated
think
that
about.
movie.
Was it Heartbreak Kid?
Heartbreak Kid or something like that. And
I don't watch like terrible movies.
I hated that movie, and then literally rewatched the movie. It is jarring. The scenes with her,
Watchmen?
yes, the scenes with her in
Yeah, I
it
did
are
watch it.
jarring.
Yeah, it's
Like you feel like you're watching a movie, and then you see her, and she's like hey, what's up, Nite Owl? And it's like watching a person walk into the scene. It's very weird.
So you think she's the part that makes the sex scene really uncomfortable?
Well, the sex scene's supposed to be uncomfortable, but
Is it?
I think she is.
I don't know. I didn't
I thought
get
it was supposed
that.
to be like
I didn't
titillating.
get that.
No, the second time. The first
Yeah,
time
the
that
second
he's
time,
impotent. Yeah, that's supposed to be
No, the
uncomfortable.
second time it's extremely uncomfortable. I think it has to do one with like the duration.
She is
It
not.
literally lasts like 3 minutes. I'm like,
No, it's-
okay.
it's-
I was alright with
She's
it.
not a good actress.
It didn't bother me.
I got no beef with you, whoever you are out there. I mean, not bad, but not great. Just indifferent really towards the performance. But like I said, I'm indifferent towards the character as well because I feel like the character, like, do you blame Hayden Christensen for?
Partially.
You blame
Partially.
him? I don't think so.
Partially.
I don't think it's his fault. I think the writing was pretty bad.
Oh, the writing, but the ideas.
Yo, he was the one driving. Yeah, he was actually back there with the writers. He said, I think this
is the way to
I
go.
mean, also he was cast. It's not his fault that he was cast like as Anakin.
I have no problem with Hayden Christensen.
You like whiny Anakin though?
Which one?
Whiny Anakin. Hayden Christensen is
There's
whiny
a lot of
Anakin.
there's a lot of instances of whiny Anakin. We're talking about Child.
Child Anakin was not whiny. Child Anakin was like pretty confident and hopeful and all that stuff. And
This dude's like nonstop complaining.
oh well.
Yeah. The only thing I remember about Child Anakin is the scene where he's trying to repair his pod racer.
That's all I think
It's
about.
working!
No, that entire
It's working!
movie, all I can think about is pod racing. I'm pretty sure that's all that happens.
Darth Maul.
But
Darth
that doesn't
Maul
involve
fighting
Anakin. The only-
Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan.
Darth Maul is literally more forgettable than the pod race. I'm sorry.
No.
The pod racing scene is so
Darth
good.
Maul and the double-sided lightsaber is iconic.
How could you ever forget hits such as Ben Quadrinobi?
Ben Quadrinobi.
And Sebulba always wins.
I cannot forget Ben Quadrinobi because I played the Game Boy Color pod racing game
remember that.
had a AAA battery in the back and it vibrated when you'd hit the walls.
All I'm saying
And
is-
Ben Quadrineros was my fucking boy. I would race with Ben Quadrineros almost every time
Say what you want about
because he wasn't the
him.
fastest, but he was the most consistent.
Say
He was the
what
most
you want about
controlled.
him.
Yeah.
Great cast of characters and not really forgettable. Like I could name so many characters.
All right,
that are
let's
so-
save it for the Star Wars.
Like,
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Watchman
wanna-
is such an amazing character.
Oh,
So wait, back to
Watchmen.
Watchmen. What were we even fucking talking about?
I
Star Wars is
don't
just so
know.
much
I
more
really
interesting.
don't
I hate to
We're
say
getting
it.
off of
I
this
literally
so
hate to
much.
say it.
No, we're talking about
but I
Silk
love
Spectre. We're talking about how bad that actress is.
Oh, that's why. We're
And
talking
how
about forgettable
forgettable
things.
she
I
is.
literally forgot. Yeah, Silk Spectre. Okay, look.
You forgot how
Yeah,
forgettable
it's
she is.
not a good part.
It's not your fault.
But that actress is
That's
not
how
good.
it was wrote, yeah, but the actress didn't help.
Yeah, no, not helpful, but also, you're
Like I said, I think Patrick Wilson, I
But-
think he gave a personality to Nite Owl that I don't think was in the books.
No,
But-
that's the thing. Is the problem is maybe, like I said, I read it so long ago, and then going back reading it, I just automatically read everything in Patrick Wilson Nite Owl,
yeah.
which is that drab, like sort of like Clark Kent aspect of Superman. You know what I'm saying? Just like a huge weenie, because that's who he's supposed to like be.
Mhm.
Are we trying to avoid spoilers for the show?
Hell no.
Yeah, for the show. I think.
Okay.
All right.
I feel like Silk Spectre and
We're talking about worst characters. So
Worst-
I know, and Nite Owl combined are the worst characters.
Yeah.
No, Nite Owl is
They're
cool.
together through most of the movie,
And they're both
Their
very
scene.
lame.
No, a lot of their
The
identity.
coolest thing-
But
they
they
did-
are also more human. They're more close
Yes.
to us.
No, they're the only thing that's
The
like,
coolest thing
typically
they did
relatable.
Right,
about
they're
was
more
save
relatable.
Rorschach from the prison, and he didn't really even do that. He
Well,
could
yeah,
have
no,
got
that,
out.
I admit
himself.
that is one of the cool things that happens to them during their arc is they've all retired or they've been retired, right? I guess the only person who chose to not retire was Rorschach, which is kind of cool
Well,
he never
because
says-
it was they had to because it was illegal, right?
I mean,
But
it
Rorschach
was against
didn't,
the
yeah.
law, but
Rorschach
they
didn't
didn't
care.
have to do anything. Rorschach didn't.
Yeah, you do what's right.
He killed someone, left it on the steps of like the precincts or whatever, and says like it says never or some shit.
Yeah, like
which is fucking
never gonna back
awesome.
down. No,
Me-
that is one cool thing about Rorschach.
Me, when I was 7 years old with my friend, we knew it was against the law to steal 2 iron Bible, but we knew what the right thing to do was. You know what I mean?
Which was to what?
I've not admitted guilt
So
for
read
anything.
the Bible after you stole it.
To read the
That was
Tijuana
the
Bible
good
after you saw it.
Yeah.
Um,
The prison scene is also one of my favorite scenes.
prison scene.
I mean, not just the
Awesome.
scene, the whole prison story
Arc.
Yeah,
the whole prison arc where Rorschach's in
That's a
prison.
whole. Yeah, that's a whole.
Best quote in the
It's
whole
awesome.
show?
What's
Best quote in the whole thing?
You love that. You
What
go ahead,
quote is
go
it?
ahead because you know it better.
What quote is it? I can't even think.
It's,
It's not even that good because I can't remember.
It's all the prisoners are looking at him because he helped
He's
put
in
some
the
of them away.
lunchroom in the lunch line.
And he's in the line.
after
and
after
he's
he
getting
fries that guy?
he's getting pushed around and shoved and stuff, and he's made an assessment like I've got to do something. I've got to let them know. And so yeah, he takes the
Well, it's
like
not that he's about to get shanked.
I think
Yeah,
so.
he's about to get shanked.
Someone
So
had
he
like
takes-
a little screwdriver.
he
and
uses
takes
the
it.
He takes the grease or whatever and he pours it on this guy's head and then he uses his tray to
Kills him.
like
Kills him.
beat the crap out of some other dude, right? Or at least significantly scars him, like burns him, right? I mean,
There is
His
no
face
way your
is
whole
melting.
face gets
No,
fried
he's
in
on
bubbling
his
oil and you
knees.
do not die.
Yeah, he's just
You're
on
dead.
his knees.
what about that
face
chick who used to be on the
going
commercials for like drinking and driving or something? She had like
Don't
That's
ever
not
remind me.
grease.
That is one of my
no, but you can be
true
severely
terrors of my
burned.
life.
You can be severely burned and still be
But that's
alive.
but that guy's dead.
That dude is
That
dead.
guy's dead.
First of
Tweet
all,
us
this is in a prison.
at YFCS Pod on
Is
Is
Twitter.
that guy still alive?
This is the guy who
in
got
prison
fryer
in the
grease poured on him. Is
80s
he
in
still
like
alive?
alternate like gritty world. He's dead.
All right,
100%.
tweet us at YFCS Pod. Did they have the medical technology in the
No,
80s
you know what?
to save that guy?
in a prison.
He
In a
actually
prison.
did die. I remember now because in the book, that's what sparked the riot.
Oh,
is he
he
said
dies?
whenever that guy dies, the riot's
don't
going to
have
start.
it.
So he does die. So
Oh, you're
don't
right.
tweet us because I'm always right, bitch.
Tweet us and let.
But anyways, he
No one will ever tweet us ever.
yeah, he stops the guy from shanking him with the tray, hits him in
Yeah.
the face, grabs the grease, and then pours it on that
That
guy's
is
face. It's
that
the
is
same guy.
terrifying.
Okay,
And then the quote.
and
right?
then
Like I've cooked bacon without my shirt on.
Everyone-
Every time I get hit by like
Little-
bacon grease,
yeah.
I'm like, ow, that really
the,
hurts.
the security guards are dragging him away, and the actor who portrays him, we need to look up his name, does a really great job too. Rorschach yells.
Oh, the monotone Rorschach voice? That's what I think of.
Yeah, he goes, you think I'm locked in here with you? But you're the ones who are locked in here with me.
Does he enunciate all of his?
Yeah.
He doesn't use contractions?
No, it's very,
Yeah, it was
but it's really well.
It does sound like that.
You know what you said?
But it's great. It's a
It's
great
like a JC to
line.
Rorschach and also the Punisher. That's a combination. That's what that voice is.
Yeah.
No,
and,
also
the singer for Nickelback.
Yes. Who is the singer from Nickelback?
Photograph. It's Rorschach.
Oh.
It's actually him. Yeah.
Literally Rorschach.
Look at this
Who's the
photograph.
actor that plays Rorschach is actually the lead
Yeah,
singer.
can you tell me what these
Nickelback.
blots look like?
Yeah, on this photograph.
Some pretty flowers.
Look at this photograph of a Rorschach test.
That part's awesome. And then during the riot, that big figure, I think that's the boss.
Big figure.
It literally
It's
is
such a
It's such a perfect.
His name's
picture.
a big
It's like a
figure.
literal midget named Big Finger.
Yeah, he's
Oh,
a
God.
dwarf.
Back from the Nite Owl days.
And then they're trying to get in his cell, and it's just like that whole part is
Oh yeah.
badass too.
They're trying to get in there with
Yeah.
a blowtorch, like messing.
Guy
up.
reaches his
It's-
arms
it's
in,
like,
he ties him off, and then
it's
they're
a
forced to
saw.
cut
It's
his
a saw in the
arms
movie. It's a
off.
blowtorch in the books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Circular
That's
saw.
awesome.
I think that's way scarier than a blowtorch because then they have to circular saw their dude's arms off.
I think he might light a cigarette with a blowtorch and then start doing it, which is kind of a cool image.
But they have to go with the
It has a
gratuitous
cigar,
like
I
violence
think,
and
yeah,
blood
yeah.
and shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Prison scene is cool too, though.
Awesome.
It's like the tail end of Silk Spectre 2 and Nite Owl 2 reclaiming their identities as heroes
Yeah.
again when they go back to get Rorschach. But even then, Silk
And then they
Spectre's
fight
not-
their way through the prison.
Yeah, Silk Spectre has doubts at that point about.
So wait,
what
so
they're
the
doing.
By
law-
that time, Rorschach is already out, has his mask already,
He's
and
out.
just going to kill Big Figure in the restroom.
The law is.
But he's their convenient avenue of escape.
Yeah, he's just
How do you
like,
get
I have
out?
to use the restroom.
Yeah.
And then he walks in.
The law
Yeah,
is
probably they don't
preventing
even-
them from
Yeah, I
having.
know.
The law is preventing them from being heroes, and them not being heroes is preventing them from having a passionate relationship. So in the way that
Well, they
the
can have-
law
Yeah.
is preventing them from having a relationship. So Alan Moore was basically
You
talking
can't
about like
outlaw-
misogyny. He was
yeah,
talking about like gay
You can't
marriage.
outlaw love, is basically
He was
what
talking about gay marriage. Yeah, you can't outlaw love. Yes.
Well, also, the only openly gay superhero got killed after getting outed.
In Watchmen.
In what she was a member of the Minutemen.
Oh.
Which
Yeah,
was
I
the
think.
super-
Oh,
so
yes.
she got outed, and then a week later got killed by someone.
Oh man.
Her and her.
So, and there's a whole arc of characters with pink triangles, which is represented the lesbian movement in the 80s. And that's a whole thing in Watchmen. So yeah, he does give voice to sort of gay characters and stuff like that. That's really cool, man. So there's one good thing he does for.
I mean, it's just the babyest character, but I mean,
it is.
And from the previous generation stuff.
Yeah.
I actually really like a lot of the heroes from the Minutemen, even more than the newer generation.
Yeah, there's so many. There's great authors can give you nuggets of things, and you're like, man, I want to know. I want a whole story about that.
That's what I'm saying. The Hollis Mason,
Yeah.
book, they give you like 5 chapters of it of the first 3 mags.
Yeah.
And you're like, damn, I would just read that book because it's like, that's when they were just people dressing up or whatever. I think that's way more interesting. And they're not even like superheroes conventionally like Batman or like any of those guys. Because when you think of Batman, yes, he is a guy. Yes, he has gadgets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But when he fights people, he is not a human.
Yeah.
He is superhuman strength,
Stronger,
agility, like
yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
But whenever like Hollis Mason, he's describing his first outing as the Nite Owl. He said he almost got killed by some random drunk because he just pulled down his mask and he couldn't see very well.
Yeah.
Like, he's just a police guy who decided he wanted to be a superhero for, like, personal, some selfish reasons and some not. But he's just a normal guy. And then Nite Owl 2, Dan Dreiberg, is just a continuum of that, right? Because Dan Dreiberg is just literally... What was he like? Graduated from like Princeton.
He was
or
just
something.
inspired by it.
Yeah, he liked.
He's
birds.
like a Bucky Barnes type character.
Not even that. He was just a dweeb who literally liked birds.
He's in an ornithology.
And physics. Those are the two things he got degrees in. When he graduated, wrote to Hollis Mason and said, "Hey, you're not using this anymore. Let me take over the mantle of Nite Owl."
Awesome.
He's so lame.
He's the worst character.
He is.
But
he's
the worst character.
But that's cool though.
But
I like
a guy
Fisher more now.
Who wants to?
I don't even remember that.
Who wants to make a dip? Yeah, it's such a lame reason for becoming into ornithology. and you're like, oh, well, he's a night owl, so that's why. Yeah. But he's also a huge fan.
It makes more sense than Batman dressing as a bat. Alan Moore's Watchmen was popularly known as the un-filmable graphic novel. Well, with the 2009 Watchmen opening to great success, and a Watchmen series now running on HBO, I think it's safe to say that the unfilmable graphic novel is totally filmable. That's why Matt, Bran, and I have called the people over at Guinness Book of World Records to show them the graphic novel we've created, which we assure is completely unfilmable. First of all, every character is giant with huge blue glowing genitalia. Good luck getting that past the Motion Picture Association. Besides the blue glowing characters, we've used a color palette for everything else that ranges from deep space black to puce. It's almost impossible to make out the scenery and setting. Still think you can make it? Well, the dialogue is also part of an alien language that cannot be translated to English, even in captions, and that's canon. And if you still think you can make a movie out of these strange characters, settings, and dialogue, then good luck finding the graphic novel. We only made one copy, and we left it in the trunk of a 1990 Honda Accord for over 2 decades. What does the original comic look like? No one knows but us, and we're not telling. Guinness, why don't you go ahead and put us down for the most unfilmable comic, and we'll call it a day.
And even if you think about Ozymandias, he is not a human.
No.
They say that he
catches a bullet.
He literally that man catches a bullet.
He's not a human.
Like what?
It doesn't matter if you're the smartest man.
Yeah.
Well, Jonathan could catch a bullet.
Yeah, that's it.
I can catch a bullet.
But besides Jonathan, Ozymandias.
And that's what makes me hate Ozymandias. I love the way the character's written. Like whenever they were talking.
What can I say?
Nite Owl was like,
smartest and fastest man in the world.
Both smartest and best martial artist,
but also
and strongest man.
Oh yeah, he just ices comedian.
Dude, he
obviously there's a big age difference, but still.
No, they talk about how buff and strong comedian was at the beginning. They're like, there's no way this was just a regular.
He's older though. Right?
And towards the end, he whoops the shit out of Rorschach and Nite Owl.
Yeah, not even close. Lame how strong he is.
That's the problem. They're like, what happens if the assassin just shot you first? Why don't you just caught the bullet? And then he does catch a bullet whenever.
However, though, there were those sort of like urban myths of like this person can catch a bullet with their teeth or with their hands. It was magic. It was like a magic trick kind of thing.
Isn't that like 007?
007?
Catching a bullet. No, catching a bullet is a magic trick.
Yeah, but people did the same with their teeth too. Like they would do a magic trick where someone would shoot and then they would turn and have the bullet in their teeth, and it was a trick. You know, obviously,
Adrian Veidt actually catches a bullet.
Yeah.
Who?
Huh? Oh, Ozymandias.
Oh, okay.
That's his character, Adrian Veidt.
Adrian Veidt.
Of Veidt Industries.
I heard Asian Veidt. I literally heard. I'm not joking. That was not a callback.
That's bad.
I heard
I didn't realize how racist he was.
It's a huge issue. I wonder if it's a genetic thing.
Damn.
Tweet us right now.
No,
I hope not.
No, we established it's not.
Tweet us right now. Did you hear Asian Veidt? I really thought I did.
Well, what were we talking? I don't even remember. We got so derailed.
I was talking about
how Ozymandias is OP.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just.
Which is why I don't think he's the best character.
Yeah.
Well,
because that ruins it.
What I think makes his character.
It's also the reason I don't like Manhattan as much is because he is that Superman thing where you're all powerful.
But Dr. Manhattan,
you're all powerful. That's lame.
Is much more limited by his personality.
Yes,
he is all powerful, but most of the time he's not using those powers.
I would argue that Dr. Manhattan doesn't even think he's more powerful than anybody else. He's just.
I don't think he cares.
But like within the context.
He doesn't have penis envy. He's just like a guy that he's not thinking about things.
He also has a huge penis. So,
his lack of penis envy is what has freed his karmic third mind.
That's all it is.
Little did they know you don't need pills.
If we could get beyond that, we would elevate as a race. Yeah,
the third eye has opened.
Oh
We all just walk around naked.
All your sense of ego in relation to your penis.
Yeah, I mean, well, actually, no,
you have the biggest penis.
However, it is like a Garden of Eden type of thing. Like he has no shame. Like watch
He
that.
doesn't,
'Cause
why does this matter?
Yeah, exactly.
He's not
without
human.
his humanity.
He's
Yeah,
not
he doesn't
human, yeah.
care about stuff like that.
Yeah. But I do want to say one more
It's
thing about
terrifying.
Ozymandias, which is, and you only really get it in the comic book and, God dang it, Alt Shift X. I can never remember the last part. Alt Shift X reminded me of it too, though, which is that the Black Freighter is going adjacent to all the stuff that's happening and giving us a character that is trying to get to his goal and willing to do anything to do it. And that's what Ozymandias is doing. And that character cannot live with himself in the end. And Ozymandias also has...
He's proud of himself at the end. When he does it.
He's not,
he's
though.
happy.
He literally screams, "I did it!"
But yes, but if you read, he's also feels isolated. He is not happy. He says, I will feel those deaths. Like he is not in the movie.
I mean, he says that.
In the movie, I think he comes off more as a dick. I think
he
he's
still
not
says
written
the
as well.
same thing, but yeah, I still feel like he's proud of himself.
No,
he's
he's
like
definitely proud
he's
of himself.
happy to take on
He's
this
proud of
burden
himself,
because
but-
it feeds like his ego. He thinks
But-
he wants to be Alexander the Great. He wants to be.
No, he
this-
wants to be better than Alexander.
Well, yeah.
Well, the thing is,
He
feels
wants
like
to be
he
this
wants to be
huge
Ramses
hero.
II.
He feels like he saved humanity. That's what it is.
That's why,
Right.
once again, Dr. Manhattan,
Well,
in
he
the
did
movie at
eventually,
least,
like, save humanity. That's
he's
the-
like,
He saved it from nuclear
I didn't
war,
even do this, but I'll take the burden. I don't
or
care.
postponed it.
Whereas for Ozymandias, taking on the burden just fuels like his fame and his ego, I feel like.
Well, let me talk about the comedian because we've talked about all the other ones. But the comedian, to me, he's the character out of all the characters who most knows who he is. Maybe Ozymandias also knows who he
I
is.
don't know about that.
Rorschach.
Rorschach.
Yeah, Rorschach.
No,
for
Rorschach
sure.
is literally the
Okay.
one who was like,
So-
I will never not be.
All right, well then
Right.
Rorschach. Well, but Rorschach also makes decisions that go against his compass sometimes. So the comedian knows who he is. He's
Rorschach
not.
actually
I don't know.
admires him because of
Yeah,
that.
he's
So-
not.
Well-
He's not going through a crisis.
There is that part where
But-
he goes to his old nemesis,
He
I
does
think
go
he
to house,
is going through a
sits
crisis.
on the
He's
bed and
definitely going
says,
through a
and just
crisis.
starts bawling.
Well, because he knows the truth about what's going on
With Adrian.
with Adrian Veidt,
Yeah, that's
with
true,
and
yeah.
that's why he's doing that.
That's right.
But I think that he knows earliest on because it does those flashbacks to Nite Owl and him, and Nite Owl's very disturbed about what's happening with the protests and all that stuff. And comedian's like, dude, this is what it is. Like the comedian he's very cynical and jaded already, like early on. And I think that Rorschach comes to that. I think that he is like that pretty early, like. This is just what the world is, man. Like that's
I mean,
So the
he
comedian?
Yeah, the
makes
comedian.
it worse, though.
he does
makes
make
the world
he's
worse.
he thinks he's part of the world. Yeah, he's.
I mean,
just-
that guy literally
Well, his-
shoots a knocked up girl in Vietnam.
Yeah.
That he got knocked up.
Well,
And didn't give a shit.
what is his thing? His thing is like the world is a joke.
It
Like
says
this is all a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
And tells Manhattan, you could have stopped me from doing this. After
doesn't he?
you
What does he
shoot
say? He
me.
says like something's the biggest punchline is like I don't know, like trying to take things seriously, like thinking that any of this matters or something like that. Like, but then I think that I guess he is going through somewhat of a crisis because he has that persona, but then he is kind of messed up by Ozymandias. What Ozymandias is doing, he doesn't like that,
Yeah, obviously.
and so then he's kind of like, well, it's all a joke, but I don't like that. Like that's not funny to me, So I think that is the one thing.
I mean,
that pushes
he's
too far.
kind of like the. I feel like he's kind of like the veteran with PTSD.
Mhm.
Also,
Oh
like,
man, he represents like a Vietnam vet.
yeah, because
Oh,
at times
man.
he's very
makes
confident
him
in what he's
bad.
doing. He's like, "This is what I have to do," and then at other times
Yeah.
he's breaking down,
Yeah.
and he's like,
That's a good point.
he does have remorse. I feel like Rorschach never has remorse.
Yeah, Rorschach is
Comedian
literally-
is a little more human, I would say, because he's
Yeah.
very confident on the outside, but then when he's
Yeah.
alone or with that one guy, what's his
Mhm.
name, Morlock or
I
something?
forget his
Yeah.
name.
But a Murloc? What is
Yeah,
I think it's like Russian.
his best friend's a Morlock.
Moloch?
it? Moloch.
Yeah, no,
Moloch is the
there's a
villain.
scene
Yeah,
where he's
Moloch.
talking about like all the shit he's done, and he's like, "But that was war, man." Like he's trying to justify it. He's like, "We had to do it. That was war. It's different."
Look at this comedian.
He's a
Rorschach.
very-
This comedian actually had human relationships.
Yeah,
Rorschach doesn't.
Rorschach is a full on like sociopath.
Well, because
Yeah.
comedian compartmentalizes it,
Yeah,
and Rorschach it does not. But
Well, because Rorschach is just who he is.
He does tell Nite Owl that he's his friend, or what does he say?
Rorschach,
Yeah, Rorschach. He's like,
No, yeah, that's Rorschach.
I actually
Also,
like
Night
that.
Owl is his like tie to the rest of humanity as
Yeah.
well.
yeah.
That's before. That's the last person he really had a relationship with before he turned into Rorschach.
yeah,
and I'd say that Night Owl's the only person who mourns Rorschach's death.
Oh no, for sure.
For
in the
sure.
in the movie,
He's the only one that cares.
yeah, in the movie. In the comic book, he does not.
He doesn't even care.
In the comic book, he doesn't even know.
He's
He
not
doesn't know
there.
what happens.
In the comic book,
It's just one-on-one.
him and Silk Spectre leave, and Dr. Manhattan blows him up. Yeah.
Dr. Manhattan kills.
But let's talk about the
Rorschach.
ending in a
Doesn't even say
second.
anything
But
about it, too.
the comedian I wanted to say one more thing was, God dang it, now I lost it. He, Vietnam vet represents that kind of character. Yeah, I mean, I think that's just a really well done character, but obviously evil. I mean, but a comedian.
Not
but-
evil.
He rapes somebody and he kills a pregnant woman in Vietnam.
Yeah,
Like
he's
he's an
fucking
awful person, dude.
And during the riot, there was riots in the
Yeah.
street.
He's
where him and
enjoying
Nite Owl were
hurting
there.
people who are peacefully
Yeah,
Well, that's just who
protesting.
he is, though.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
So what I'm trying to
say
is,
But Alan Moore does a good job of even that character. You know, a villain in another comic book would just be an unexplainable villain or whatever. But to say that he's like a Vietnam vet who, you know, who knows what he went through before that. I'm not saying Vietnam vets are rapists and stuff like that, but the PTSD explains some of his erratic behavior.
But there are things to kind of justify
His behavior.
like descent down
And
the
his
dark
involvement
path.
with the American government.
Yeah.
Like
he's had
an
to do
agent of the American
he's had to
government.
do like covert operations,
He prevents Watergate from being discovered in the Watchmen universe.
and
Like,
he
Yeah,
shuts
that's
down like
He shoots
it's
JFK.
it's
in the
mentioned-
movie. In the movie.
Oh, okay,
In the
yeah.
movie.
That was
It's
a
been
nice
a while
touch. I
since
do
I-
think that was a nice touch.
I like that.
And it's mentioned that he was in charge of like shutting down communist uprisings in like South America and stuff like that.
Yeah.
he did
goes in-
anything.
Yeah, all the
He
astroturfing
didn't
and
give
stuff
a
in
shit.
South America, that was just comedian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In this universe.
Which ties in well to his character to be like, you know, we're shaping global politics. Like, who cares? It's all a game. It's all
Yeah.
just fun. Like, whatever. I
I think that's
can
what
make
it
a
is
country
for
have a revolution. Who cares?
It's fun for him to do these things,
Yeah.
and that's why he does them.
And then you have his character on Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character on The Walking Dead, which I think is not nearly as good. He's just a straight up asshole.
What
Yeah,
I'm saying is, I don't
he's
think
just
this guy-
pure
I
evil
don't
with
think
no
the comedian is
justification.
wholly evil, because if he were wholly evil, he wouldn't have like remorse
Yeah.
or like what Adrian
Well, I'm
Brody would
saying-
or stuff like that.
He would be, you know, if he was in any other comic, he would have no redeeming, like any qualities that we could be like, oh, we feel sorry for him, that kind of thing. Like he's a well written character, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'd say so. Like he
so
tries to rape the first Silk Spectre, but by the end, like you realize that she doesn't really care or whatever.
It's
And he
weird.
went
But
back
she
to-
goes back.
Well, but that, I think,
and then gets
is
pregnant.
Alan Moore doing a good job of doing like a product of their time type of thing? Because I mean, at that time, you know, a man making sexual advances like that on a woman, we call it straight up rape. She would call it like, oh, you know, we went too far. He went too far. one
And
time.
like
You know
if
what I
she
mean?
had
Like,
tried to complain about
That's
it,
how-
nothing would really happen.
Right,
like,
but-
at that time.
but women of that
True.
time have that sort of outlook.
I
It's,
think, yeah, in the book,
they're products of their society.
Hooded Justice comes in and beats the shit out of the comedian,
Yeah.
but then at the end he was just like, put something on her. So
Listen to
right after she almost got raped, I'm like, damn.
listen
fucking-
to Your Favorite Character Sucks, where four men talk about what women in the '60s felt like.
Not even in the 60s.
It was the
This
60s,
is
right?
Minutemen. This is back in the 40s.
Okay.
Or before that, because
Listen to us explain what women in the '40s thought and felt. But anyway, in an Alan Moore comic book,
Yeah,
like
wow, we're
so
so
far
far
removed from like even having a
There's no
feminine
female
presence.
Yeah, no female influence whatsoever.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
How's it going, folks? Usually I say I'm sorry for interrupting the podcast, but this time I am not sorry. And that's because for the first time in Your Favorite Character Sucks, we actually have a real sponsored advertisement. Not a character, not a silly, improvised, nerdy ad, but a real partnership with a comic book store here in Houston. So listen up. Looking for last-minute holiday gifts or a good comic series to curl up with during one of Houston's rare cold fronts? Third Planet can help with that. Third Planet has provided Houston's comic community with a wide selection of comics, gaming, collectibles, vintage, Disney, and more for 44 years, making them the oldest comic shop in the United States. Pop on over to their Facebook page so you can keep up with the latest news, newest merchandise, events, sales, and holiday hours. Mention that you heard this ad on Your Favorite Character Sucks between now and Christmas Eve, and you can get 10% off any one regular priced item. This offer excludes CGC books and hot toys. And y'all, even beyond the holidays, Third Planet Sci-Fi Superstore is an amazing place to go, especially with the kids. It's over at 2718 Southwest Freeway, right next to a bunch of other amazing restaurants, shops, and one of my kids' favorite parks, Levy Park. I can tell you right now that during our holiday break, we're definitely going to be going to the park, getting some lunch, and spending a lot of time at Third Planet Sci-Fi Superstore. Check out their Facebook and go to their store today. All right, back to the show.
Our characters, how they respond to the end. Comedian doesn't really get there, but Dr. Manhattan, he has a response of that it's too late to do anything. So why do something, right?
It's not that it's too late. Time has no.
But
bearing
doing
on it.
something wouldn't help.
Well, he does
right?
acknowledge that there are like.
He doesn't agree with Ozymandias. He does not think that you should kill a few to save many, but he feels that it's already happened, so
And the
well.
thing is, he's the only guy who has the power to like change that too, which sucks.
So instead of thinking that killing a few is better than killing many, he's saying that like the truth is not as important as peace.
Yeah.
So he's saying, who cares about the truth? We need peace. So
Sure.
yeah. And Rorschach obviously does not agree with that.
He dies for it.
He thinks that the truth.
We were talking about the actor. One of my favorite scenes, I think, is when Dr. Manhattan kills Rorschach.
Yeah.
And when he like takes off the mask and he's telling him to do it.
Oh,
that scene is very good. Like,
all right.
Yeah.
Most badass character? I think Rorschach's got to be the
pushes
most
the whole
badass
story
character.
too, man.
He's such a badass. He's so cool.
I think that it's hard to say because I feel like.
Fucking Nite
I think
Owl.
all three of our characters are badass, and then Nite Owl's just a giant piece of shit.
Well, no, Nite Owl is not meant to be bad. That's the point. He's the foil to all the badassery.
Yeah.
He's the exact opposite of everybody. Always very uncertain about the line between his normal life and his superhero life.
I feel
he's
like-
basically the touchstone of humanity. Like, and the thing is, he has to go through that period of growth where he goes from being a superhero and then to not.
But he's just like pure normal human.
But that's the thing.
Whereas I feel like all of us have our touches of humanity,
What is
which
it?
are interesting to see.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Nite Owl is a human who is a superhero. The superhero.
Jackie Earl Haley is the guy who plays Rorschach, and
that's right.
and he's the bad guy in The Tick and other stuff. He does a really good job, and he's in Preacher.
Yeah.
Man, I love his character on Preacher. And what was I going to say? The other thing I want to do real quick because I don't want to forget is we keep talking about Alan Moore, but also the artist who draws Watchmen, also unparalleled, Dave Gibbons.
Yeah.
And really, the reason that they call this movie unfilmable, the reason they said that you could not film Watchmen is because of Dave Gibbons, really, because he does so many things with the medium of graphic novel that you can't really
also,
do.
it's a very traditional 9-panel format.
Yeah. But he does amazing things. Like, there's a part where the Black Freighter, where like a dude's head has been broken open because the guy has to eat. There's only one guy left on the boat. He has to eat to survive, so he breaks open one of his old friend's heads and like is eating the brain, scooping it out.
The worst part of a human being, by the way.
Yes. Very next panel is Nite Owl 2 talking to Nite Owl 1, and Nite Owl 1 is scooping the seeds and stuff out of a pumpkin.
Yeah.
And the visual juxtaposition is so beautiful. And then what's Alt Shift X? Alt delete, Control delete.
You've
What's
said
his name?
it 30 times
Yeah.
already.
No, I've said it wrong 30 times.
Yeah.
I've never once
Sure,
gotten it right.
okay, yeah, that's true.
What Alt Shift X points out is that there was a panel that's talking about parallels or something like that. There's a whole part that's talking about parallels, and literally the two pages are parallel to each other. Like Dave Gibbons just does some. I mean, yeah, Alan Moore sending him the writing, and then Dave is like, "Oh, cool, it's talking about symmetry. I'll make the next two pages similar." That's really neat.
I don't want to comment
Who knows how
on the
that
creation
goes?
process because I was not there and involved.
Well,
in
what I want to say, Dave Gibbons, he should get credit for Watchmen being
I'm
great.
sure there was some sort of direction given. You think that's
Given?
out of the mind of him or out
Direction
of Alan
given?
Moore?
Dave Gibbons.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just got back. Sorry, I was away for a moment.
Yeah.
But I'm back now. Hey.
Sorry, I cut the. I edited that. They laughed really hard, and it made the mic
Nobody
mess
laughed
up.
at all.
It messed
Actually,
up the mic,
it was
and
a
so I had
very
to cut
uncomfortable
that.
Silence, like 6 seconds of everybody just sitting here.
I had to
speaking.
cut
I didn't
it.
even hear what he said, so.
And I had to cut it, and I edited it back
I'm so
when
mad
Matt came
myself.
back.
Sexy Matt literally blanked.
Matt peed on himself. He had to go change his pants, so that's why he came back.
No.
Which Matt?
Sexier Matt.
Ah, okay.
So you.
yeah, me.
All right. Coolest character. I say Rorschach. Most like badass. Like the one that I'm like,
Up there with the.
I'm like, damn, that's cool.
Best
He
line.
does some cool stuff too.
Yeah.
But his is more like a grotesque side.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I say Rorschach. You say
I
Rorschach.
agree, yeah, for sure.
What do y'all think?
Sure.
What do you think?
Huh? Adrian Veidt.
He's stuck.
You think
I think Adrian Veidt in terms of like.
Ozymandias is cool, like coolest,
I mean, yeah.
like most badass? You think he's the most badass? character?
Okay, let's define badass.
It's like the Jason Statham in a movie. Like he's like,
So yeah, martial arts and like.
I'm kidding.
Like, so yeah, Adrian Veidt.
The character that you like when he says a line, you're just like, damn, that was good. Like, or he does something, you're like, man, that was cool. Like the guy that like walks away from an explosion
So
doesn't
like
look back.
Hollis Mason then. So you were a better Nite Owl than I ever was. Something like that. Like, wow, that's such a
Like
simple
when the
line.
police are breaking into Rorschach uses a spray can to like
Oh, yeah,
and a lighter. That's so
he
badass.
fights his way out of
And he
this
fights his way out.
army of cops
Yeah.
coming into the building.
Yeah, okay, so you know what's more badass than all that? The guy who easily dispatches of that guy plus his longtime partner
Yeah, but that shit
with
was
no
lame.
discernible effort. Literally just handles the two of them. Not
But that's why it's not badass, because it was so easy.
it was so easy.
All right,
That's what makes it badass though.
All right, so Rorschach, most badass character.
Well, my character just turns that man to dust. But
That's
Oh, God.
He can't.
You
because
beat
he's
his
not
ass.
effect.
But Superman is not badass. Like
No, he
turning
did.
someone
I'm
to dust
saying
is not
he turned-
badass.
Oh yeah, he literally does that guy.
He goes like...
He didn't even dust him. He turned him into meat.
He blew them
Yeah.
to bits.
Yeah, he
there was
blew them
blood and stuff
Yeah.
splattered.
Because
everywhere.
dusting him wouldn't happen for Dr. Manhattan.
And also-
you have to have the same amount of molecules
Oh,
in
yeah.
a dead body as a living body.
Yeah,
Also-
another
good
excellent
line. That was a good line. Yeah.
Dave Gibbons, the like color palette too, like
Oh no, excellent.
the like pinkish red blood, like on the white snow, beautiful.
You mean just bean juice?
no,
Bean juice?
human bean
Bean
juice.
juice. Human
Oh,
bean juice.
human being juice. Okay. Most three-dimensional is going to be tough because these characters are very complex.
I think that the most three-dimensional is Nite Owl 2. Not even joking.
I'd
Really?
say comedian.
No, Nite Owl 2 is the only one who changes throughout the entire series.
He does have an arc. Okay.
No, he's.
I think that's important to three-dimensional. I think someone who goes through growth, that is an
If
arc.
you think
yeah.
about like Rorschach, he has that one pivotal point, and then he's just.
Yeah.
From what you see in Watchmen, he is just Rorschach, and everything that he does can be predicted based upon how he is.
Yeah.
I think it's probably similar for Comedian too. Because Comedian
but-
always acts as he's basically just an agent.
Thank you.
For comedian, it's a little different because he's
I heard agent
dead
that
at the
time.
very beginning. We're only seeing flashbacks, so it's hard
Yeah.
to
I'm
see
saying you only hear what you
character
wanna hear.
progression.
Huh? Nothing. And
But
even
I-
Dr. Mann, you
Doc-
already know what Dr. Mann's going to do because he says it himself.
But
He
Rorschach,
can't change anything.
I would say even Dr. Manhattan has more
He
depth
does.
than Rorschach.
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, no, for
Yeah.
sure.
I think
Really?
so.
Okay.
Because, like I said, you get tiny glimpses of his humanity, even though it's not there most of the time. Like when he goes for the interview and he starts finding out that his loved ones are getting cancer from him. That's a lie, obviously.
there's
He
a
thinks
scene-
that
He
there.
is, yeah.
Instead of just being like deadpan and not caring, he actually gets very upset and freaks out and has to flee the planet.
Yeah.
And it's like those tiny moments that you realize like he is still a human in there.
Even when he says, "I'm tired of this world," being tired is an aspect of humanity.
Yeah.
So he says he's tired of humanity, but if you
Yeah.
really were, then you wouldn't even be. It would just
You'd
a
be
different point.
unfazed, yeah.
It wouldn't even matter.
Rorschach, though, has so many of those elements that explain his character, and I think that is part of a three-dimensional character is understanding why they make the decisions they make.
Sure.
It's not just for no reason. It's not arbitrary. It's like they have a past that has made them who they are. And so even if he's a person who's set in their ways, there are people that exist like that.
But I'm just saying, it becomes pretty one track, just who he is. I mean, and that track is what
It's
puts him-
badass. Yeah, it's what makes him
Yeah,
badass.
I mean,
That track is what puts
his
him on the
line
plot,
is
yeah, exactly.
never compromised.
Yeah,
like he will not divert from his singular
And
path.
even what he, even
That's all
if
he's
the-
got left is
even-
to not compromise.
Yeah, if his
Yeah.
methods and the things he do aren't always good.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Because you can't. I mean, I guess he's one of those you fight evil with evil type people, but a lot of people wouldn't.
Well, evil at all any means. Or
Yeah,
whatever,
exactly.
Right. Which is interesting because he's not willing to kill, many or few for many. Right.
Yeah.
And
he's also
So not any
supports
means.
like Nazis and things like that within the.
does
context
so?
of
What
the-
do you? What do you see? Where was that? I don't remember that. That he is fine with Nazis and stuff.
Yeah.
Did he say something about fascists or what?
Yeah, I think he said. I know for a fact that because I just read this like from the original Minutemen. Like
Yeah.
they always make like little mentions and things that like he's like, well, Hooded Justice supports like the Hitler Youth or something, or they made some statements about like.
I think
supporting
I
things
remember
like
that. I do
And
remember
I'm
that.
like, okay, and then so the thing that about
Which is great because
Rorschach
that was in the 40s, right?
when they raid his apartment, they note that they find a lot of right wing like literature and things
But
amongst his.
do
like,
they or is that
army.
planted?
Yeah, it's good.
Also, doesn't he excuse like the comedian?
Yeah, he
action.
thinks the comedian did good. He was a good person. He says he was a patriot, which is something he valued.
So he excuses
That
comedians.
sounds
very,
fascist.
yeah, so I'm like,
Exactly. He's
he was
like,
a good soldier and a good American.
he's like, yes, he
things
did
said.
that bad stuff, but yeah, it was in the service of his country, so it's okay.
Which is weird because I don't really understand where he got those ideas of like patriotism and stuff from. Because America was never there for him. like realistically, right?
Yeah, but there are a lot of people like that are like uber patriotic and just never.
Oh, yeah. I'd say most of those people are not well served by their country, but they're still devoted to it. Like a lot of poor white nationalists.
Like I said, in terms of like three-dimensional, I do think it is Nite Owl 1 because he's the only one that actually experiences like change. He's the only one who's capable of experiencing change.
So the first Nite
because
Owl?
Rorschach.
Yeah, one or two.
Hollis Mason also because they're mirrors of each other.
Yeah.
If you read like the things that caused Hollis to abandon his superheroes was he got to his mid-40s, he looks around, sees people like Adrian Veidt and all the younger guys, he's like, what am I doing here still dressing up like a superhero? And then he just retires. Because it's about moving on through, he no longer has a use for that superhero identity. And it's the same with Nite Owl.
Yeah.
Because once he reaches that midway point, it's just a little more
I
aggressive.
I think you're right. I don't think there's a consensus though about who's the most complex. It's just they're all good. Yeah. They're all really well done.
I think that the reason why I just feel like Nite Owl is because he's the most relatable.
Mm-hmm.
It's too difficult to get inside the head of someone who's the literal sociopath like Rorschach, who is non-human, but with some human facets like Dr. Man, or who's actually just a psychopath, not a sociopath, like the comedian, because they're just so removed from what humanity is.
Yeah.
Whereas Nite Owl is just the only human, or the only well-fleshed-out human.
I think essential to the plot, like if these characters did not, they drive the plot the most,
Adrian Veidt is the only...
It would be Ozymandias and probably Rorschach.
I would say it's only Adrian Veidt. If you remove every other superhero from it, because that's his point is once he removes all the heroes, then he goes forward with the plan. So Adrian Veidt's the only thing that moves like behind the scenes the whole plot.
But I'm talking about the plot of the story Watchmen, not his plot to destroy to do what he does.
Then it would still be Adrian Veidt, would it not be?
It would be him. He's definitely essential. But then the other character that's essential has got to be the person who's like most looking
You're saying
for him.
if a question is asked, then there has to be like a call to respond.
Yeah.
So that would be Rorschach.
So I think Rorschach might be, out of the characters we chose, might be the most plot driving, most essential to the plot. I think Dr. Manhattan
Dr. Manhattan is not. He's an obstacle to the plot.
But I think some of the most interesting things that happen in the story happen to Dr. Manhattan. Like the part where it's showing past, present, and future at the same time, and he's on Mars. Like that's some of the coolest.
I like that.
That's some of the coolest parts of anything, and they did that really well in the movie.
No,
that's one thing they nailed in the movie.
The speech he gives to Silk Spectre when he's like revealing her parentage, but explaining that as terrible as it is, it's still just a miracle that she is who she is.
Yeah.
That part is,
That's why he goes back.
Here's what I'm going to say.
And that's another glimpse of his humanity. He wouldn't give a shit about that.
That's the only reason
but he still loves her, yeah.
A majority of us said most badass Rorschach. I think most interesting, most intriguing, I think Dr. Manhattan is most interesting.
Yeah, it's a very complex character.
I'm very interested in him, and I like to... he's the only one that I want to know more about.
I do remember...
Also, Dr. Man is literally like a pedophile.
What? Oh, because he's,
So Spectre was literally like 68
years old. Oh, my Lord.
And he was like 30.
That's something I did not think about. Jeez.
I do remember...
So you guys are supporting a pedophile if you vote for Dr. Man.
I do remember when I was reading the graphic novel, I did want to read more about Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah.
Like his
so
story,
intriguing.
his past, his everything.
If the whole thing had been that past future thing, I would have loved it.
And him slowly appearing every once in a while.
Like from an artistic standpoint.
Well, you're always the outlier.
No, it was very well done.
We had 3-1 on Rorschach Badass.
No, it was very well done. But
Nite trash,
on the whole, it's just...
Nite Owl. Not important to the plot.
No, I agree.
People just used him for the ship. That was it.
But no, I think I think the reason he's in it is to be another cool take on a hero, like another Alan Moore trying to make a hero realistic and stuff. And I think that's awesome.
I do. Yeah.
They can still be a great character regardless of, but these are just categories. These are just categories.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
coolest owl, dude.
I guess
Nite Owl.
Terrible.
I think what we're all saying is
there's no cooler suit than your birthday suit. So.
Yeah. What is that, an owl suit, though?
No.
So yeah, Ozymandias would be the biggest driver of the plot because of what he does. And since he's not one of the characters, I guess it would have... I guess what we're saying is it's the comedian because he's the one who finds out about it, right? He's the biggest driver of the plot.
I feel like
his death is the thing that starts all the conflicts.
Oh, yeah. But
there's a reason that he died within the first 2 minutes.
And yeah, but then all the characters are talking about him later. He's that past you can't forget.
He's still very important. They're referring
to
him throughout the entire story.
Yeah. So all right, I guess that's the end of the podcast. Comedian is the best character.
Wait,
I don't think that's...
No, we do have to decide now. Okay, we're gonna do a countdown because this is the most, not the best way to do it, but the most.
No, it is.
It's the most way that we've done it so far.
No, it's the best way.
Yeah,
Wait, is this the
This
countdown.
is tradition.
This is the tradition.
This is a tradition.
This one is actually.
And this is one that, it's like Columbus Day. Like, it's something that we should honestly reconsider. We could reconsider it, honestly.
Make it become a holiday.
It's a regrettable decision, but we're sticking to it.
Yeah. It's like calling Native Americans Indians. It's like,
Nobody does that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then, we should stop doing this.
Okay, done.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Rorschach.
Dan Driver. Not even Nite Owl 2, just Dan Driver.
So, in case you're keeping track, Rorschach was said by 3 people, and it sounded like we were speaking in one voice.
We were.
It was that was very Dr. Manhattan.
But second place,
Rorschach.
Dan Driver. Nite Owl 2.
Y'all gonna join me in this barbershop quartet? Rorschach.
Don't think
So, anyways,
All right.
Yeah, number 2, Dan Driver.
Right?
Dan Driver is number 2. Comedian didn't make it, and neither did Dr. Manhattan.
So,
Which, honestly, I think Dr. Manhattan's number 2.
Dr. Manhattan's definitely number 2.
He would have been my number
but
2.
he's not.
If we were doing
Because nobody voted for him,
if we were doing ranked choice voting, he'd be the vice president.
Yeah.
No, but that's not how we do it. So,
All right.
so Nite Owl 2, second place.
I can't believe it. We did it again. We figured out who the best character is in whatever we're talking about, despite the podcast being called Your Favorite Character Sucks. Now the only question is, what should we do next? You can help us decide by following us at YFCS Pod on Instagram and Twitter and telling us which show, movie, series, book you think we should do. Until then, hit that subscribe button and catch us on the next episode. Thanks for listening.